Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. First of all, bundles of well wishes and lot of love to all my students and to viewers as well. I am here once again with you for class 9 to talk on their chapter number 2nd, this that's entitled as the constitutional designing. So, dear students, first of all, let me recapitulate you people regarding this constitutional designing, what we have discussed in our chapter number 1st. We were talking about this constitutional designing, that why a country needs a constitution, how this written document helps in governing the country towards national building and for the smooth functioning of the political system. And then particularly I was talking about a special case that was from the South Africa. I did talk on the concept of this apartheid there, how this the great Messiah came in the shape of a Nelson Mandela, who almost for 20 years was imprisoned, and later on coming back from the jail, he fought against this apartheid system. And ultimately in 1994, he gave a concrete document to this nation in 1994 and adopted the concept of this constitution for their country, and now the South Africa is governed under the democratic lines. So this was a brief case study of one country that's known as South Africa. So dear students, now let's start here another subtopic. Actually, that's why we need constitution today and the framing of the Indian constitution specifically. But prior to this, I am going to talk on this the framing of Indian constitution. Let me discuss here certain basic things that why a country, whether that's a democratic, whether that is a first world country, whether that is a second world or a third world country, why countries in general needs a constitution. So to me, there are certain 5-7 fundamentals for which the country talks about the constitutional designing. One is that nation building. Dear students, one is the national building. So for the sake of nation building, the country talks about this, the constitutional designing. It develops, because it develops the mutual trust. It develops the mutual trust among the citizens of the country, because they feel that we are not biased, we are not discriminated by any particular government. It also helps the country for making the government. So how to dismantle the government, how to destructure the government and to restructure the new one. The constitution specifically guides from ups and downs, length into breadth to any country. So next is it binds the power of all the peoples who are in the office, whether it's a president, whether it's a prime minister of a country, whether it is a simple MLA. So all those persons are guided and binded by a particular law that's mentioned by the constitution. And lastly, it makes a country a very much prosperous nation. What I earlier said, it talks about nation building. So country is moving towards the prosperity, it talks about the progress, it talks of development. So the moment something governs you methodically, systematically, it indicates that one thing quite obvious, one thing is very much crystal clear, that there is a development, there is a progress. So that's why, dear students, we talk about this constitutional designing. So let's have a quick look towards this now, the make of Indian constitution. Although that's a long discussion to discuss Indian constitution, its framing, its construction, and its saturation. But if you talk about this making of the Indian constitution, a brief historical analysis is very much compulsory to discuss here. That's the 1947 August. When the country was divided on this religion lines, India and Pakistan, the two nations theory was implemented. So the story is very woeful and the traumatic history of the partition. It is full of anxiety. So the first of all, let me tell you here, it was a person on the screen. His name is Aman Roy, who did talk of the Indian, who did talk about the first of all in 1934 of the Constitutional Assembly. His full name is Manbindra Nath Roy. He was a communist by ideology. So he was a communist by ideology. So Manbindra Nath Roy, this person on the screen, the first of all demanded the raise of the voice in 1934 for the Constitutional Assembly. So, general dear students, this demand was officially accepted by the Indian National. The demand of this Indian National Congress in 1935 was lastly accepted by this British government in 1940. In an August offer in 1940, the demand was accepted by the British government for framing the Constituent Assembly. So, if you talk about the composition of the Constituent Assembly, the total members in the Indian Constituent Assembly were 389. So out of 389, their students, 200 96 were the seats were allotted for the British India, and the rest 93 seats were given for the princely states. So if you had the ratio proportionately, the one seat was to be allotted to 1 million population. That is, 10 lakh people were represented by the one seat in the Constitutional Assembly when the framing of the Constitutional Assembly was taking place. So after a long discussion, so lastly it had almost 11 sessions. It had 11 sessions lastly, and the time consumed by the framers of the Indian Constitution was almost 2 years, 11 months. It was 2 years, 11 months and 18 days was the time consumption, and they visited almost 60 countries of the world. Let's not forget here to remember they visited 60 countries of the world to frame the Constitution for this great country, having the tremendous diversity, and established cost to amounted almost 64 lakh. It was almost 64 lakh rupees was the estimated cost of the Constitution framing of India. So the adoption of the Indian Constitution took place, that's 26 November 1949, and the same Constitution came into execution, came into force. It was 26 Jan 1950 when India became a republic country. So if you talk about this, the originally what it contains, the Constitution of the country, it contains a preamble. It contains a preamble. Originally, it contains a preamble. It contains a preamble. So, dear students, what's preamble? A preamble is the opening line of the Constitution, or if you quote this N.K. Palkiwala, the great jurist, he defined it that it's the identity code of the Indian Constitution. N.K. Palkiwala defines very beautifully that it's the identity code of the Indian Constitution. So, one, it's the preamble, the part of the Constitution originally contains, and second, the 395 articles. 395 articles and the 8 schedules. So the preamble, 395 articles plus 8 schedules, or the original, the structure of the Indian Constitution. Then later on we are witnessing the lot of amendments within the Constitution of India times and again to come up to expectation of the people, to have a representation of those very ideas and the notions which were represented during 1949. So a lot of amendments took place as well. Before discussing amendments, the Constitution of India was the moment it was framed, the different committees were also structured. So what were those 8 committees which were structured to give actual shape of the Constitution under the patronage of this great man? We call him this B.R. Ambedkar, who is on the screen here. This great man, also known as the father of Indian Constitution. So other things regarding the committees, let's wait and watch for my next lecture. Till then, take care and Allah Hafiz.